Thanks for tuning in to the Football Talk Squadron. I'm Dutch.
I'm Maul.
And I'm Pops.
Wore the Packers hat just to throw Pops off his game for the NFL draft episode.
Hey, we don't have the number one draft this year. We didn't got the number one pick this year.
Hey, but you are picking number 10 for the Bears, so that will make it'll throw you off. And I'm picking for the Packers.
You guys seen all those off-season champs banners that everybody's been throwing up for the Bears all the time?
Mm-hmm.
I forget what one I saw for it was the whole direwolf thing. It was like, so you're telling me a species from 10,000 years ago, when it stink, we brought it back, and Dak still can't get to the NFC Championship game? All right, well, since it's going to be a longer episode, we'll get to it. So how it's going to work, same thing we did last year. We've got the draft order. We randomize it. Pops is going first. I'm going second, then Maul, and it's just going to rotate throughout that. We're not going to do any trades. If you guys want to talk about if you were in a position to do a trade, then do that. It just makes it easier with, thinking about the team, that we're not going to do trades in the draft just because that gets messy and then who knows where it goes. So with that, the 2025 NFL draft's open. Pops, you're on the clock. You got the Titans. What are you thinking in terms? Would you trade it if you were the Titans, or are you sticking with whoever you took as your pick?
I think this is where we're going to see the Tennessee Titans go into the cycle that we always talk about. I mean, they did it when they fired Vrabel, and we've been talking about it ever since, just how terrible of a franchise they're going to continue to be. I don't think they traded back, and I think that they're going to make one of the biggest mistakes. Well, not a big mistake, but I think they're going to pick a guy who's not going to succeed for them, and with the first pick, replacing Will Levis will be Cam Ward.
Cam Ward out of Miami.
What? Yeah, I think that's kind of the consensus around the block at this point.
Yeah, and I just see, the only thing that I can think of is they're just Levis has not, done anything for us. We traded away Malik Willis. And they got rid of Rudolph. Rudolph's back in Pittsburgh now. The quarterback room is empty. So I think this is where they're leaning. I know everybody's talking about Abdul Carter going number one, but in my opinion, I think it's going to end up being Cam.
What would it take, in your opinion, to get them to trade back outside of a better draft class? Because me and Dutch were talking about that. I don't know what it is. Maybe I haven't done enough research, or I just didn't see enough of them play. But I'm going through these draft classes,
and I'm who are these?
Yeah, this draft class sucks, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm in the same boat. It's what guy is there that's going to be available to us that we can trade back for? I mean, maybe one of the edge guys, but besides that, man, I think that they're going to keep it, in my opinion. They're going to get Cam Ward.
You talked about that cycle. I was talking about it. My dad's over the house, and we were talking about the draft. And I was like, if you just look at most of the front 10 teams, it's I don't care where they draft it, including quarterback. They need someone at every position. O-line, D-line, linebacker, safety, corner, quarterback.
Wait till we get to pick 3.
Yeah. It's just one of those ones where it's they take Cam Ward. And don't get me wrong, because I was on my list for the Browns is Watson isn't the answer. Cam Ward is the most polished QB in the class. Mm-hmm. If you hadn't to take Cam Ward, I was going to take him with the Browns. And it's just because I think he can be successful, but the problem is you're going to a team where it puts a lot on you to be successful. And this is where rookie quarterbacks fail, because they're surrounded with no talent. And everyone's like, what? Why can't you be more like Jaden Daniels? And it's well, Jaden Daniels had Scary Terry and all these other guys around him, and you brought in a good coach, and you brought in an offensive coordinator. They had pieces. You just expect to keep for the Browns to somehow change. They haven't. With that, the Browns. I said if Cam Ward isn't available. I think that if you can't make the QB position better, then you make the whole defense better. I'm taking Abdul Carter. I think you pair him on opposite aside Miles Garrett. You got both of those guys locked up. That's a scary defense for teams to compete against, especially when you look at the AFC North. Like, you got to stop Lamar and Joe Burrow right now, and possibly Aaron Rodgers. So that's where I'm at with where we're sitting. I hope that's what the Browns do if they're in the position and not take Shador. I don't count on the Browns making good decisions.
Yeah, so that brings up me at 3 with the Giants, and this is, I was kind of asking you, Pops. This is where it's tricky for the Giants because this draft class is, again, kind of bad. Everybody's got Shador going 3 right here. To me, I don't like the pick, primarily because they brought in Jameis and Russ, right? Now, you could make an argument that Shador then can sit on the bench and doesn't have to come in and be that franchise guy. But from a franchise standpoint, it's like, gosh, you're just bringing in a third stringer at that point when your team is just absolutely deplorable. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter where they're drafted. Like, they have so many needs on their roster. Like, nothing they can really do makes their roster like immediately better, other than, and this is where if I was the Giants, even though it's like only up 1 spot or only up 2 spots, I'm like trying to give whatever the Browns or the Titans want and or need to like go get Abdul Carter or Cam Ward, because after that you're just like, it doesn't really matter. Because so that would be my logic if I was the Giants, knowing that we couldn't trade and knowing that you two were going to pick both of those. That's where it gets really tough as the number 3 pick, because you go, if you don't like Shador, where do you go? You could go Mason Graham in the same kind of logic that Dutch used, and just make your defense immediately better and put somebody in the middle who's going to do something for you. Travis Hunter is obviously one of the top prospects out there, but you're like, gosh, do you feel like you're wasting the number 3 pick with like a corner? Like, is a corner ever really worth the number 3 pick, or even a wide receiver? Maybe you can make the excuse that because he's going to play both ways, but I really don't see him playing both ways in the pros. So now you feel like you're reaching for almost anybody at this point. I brought up a funny thing to Dutch about, they lost Saquon, and as like a total Giants move of like trying to redeem themselves, then they come here and draft Ashton Denty at 3 just as like we're gonna try to replace him, and then they're still just terrible, which I could totally see the Giants doing.
100%.
But kind of knowing what you guys were gonna do, and I just don't like Shador here with the 2 other quarterbacks that you already have in the room, even though that would benefit him. I'm going to take Mason Graham at 3 just to try to make my defense immediately better.
Yeah, you you really took my pick there. You know, I was honestly going to do the same exact thing. You know, Vrabel coming in, you know, for his first draft as the head coach of the Patriots. You know, him being a defensive-minded guy, I thought this would be the perfect. You got a quarterback last season. Yeah, he needs pieces around him. You know, you got to fix the offensive line and things of that nature. But I think with that, if Mason Graham did go next, I think we would see Mimbu out of Missouri go to the Pats to try to get Drake May some protection. Now, here's my follow-up. If we allow for Shador to fall, how far – actually, let's put it on the record. Does he get out of the top 10?
No.
You think somebody's picking him before that?
The Raiders or the Jets or the Saints.
Yeah, I think if he true. I don't know if the Raiders would. I think the Raiders might try to get some other pieces and not just draft the backup, but the Jets and the Saints for sure would take him. But I mean, I think he's going to go 3 for sure.
if this happens and the Raiders don't take him, you can call me a cynic. That's just Tom Brady saying he does not believe in Shador Sanders. Because I think that Tom Brady's like voice in that room will be the one heard. And if he's like, yo, take Shador, they'll take him.
Yeah.
But if Shador's there and he doesn't go there, I 100% believe that's Tom Brady being like, nah, I don't think this is the guy. That's just me. Jags. I said that due to them depleting pretty much their whole offense and defense, I said they needed a wide receiver or a corner. If available, Travis Hunter.
100%.
And this is a Jalen Ramsey pick. For me and Maul were talking about this. Like, I think as a true corner, he is a first-round talent. There's, like, corner has been the most drafted position in the NFL draft in the first round for the past 25 years. Like, almost half of the first round goes at the position of defensive back. The question is I don't see him playing both ways continuously. Like, I don't see him having 100 snaps per game every single game of an NFL season.
No.
What I can see him doing is coming in and being a wide receiver number 3. Like, in like very specific situations, hey,
he's going to
let's put him on the field.
Gadgety on the offensive side. I mean, because that's not unheard of. There's been plenty of guys who have done that. Most recently, the only one I can think of off the top of my head is Adoree Jackson, which great corner at a USC, played corner. He was a defensive guy, but athletic enough and quick enough that they're like, dude, let's put the ball in this guy's hand every once in a while on like a reverse or some type of bubble screen or, something just to get the ball in his hand because he is quick and athletic. But do you think this dude's going to step up in level play and play 100 snaps? You're crazy. It's not going to happen. He's not big enough, or he's the sustainability is just so improbable.
And that was going to be my argument, was just the sheer size of who he is. Like, he's going to take a couple of shots on offense, and they're going to be like, all right, you're strictly sticking to defense now.
I mean, Troy Brown played both ways for the Patriots back in 2004. Mm-hmm. Now, he didn't do it both, like we talked about, going hard in the paint both ways. He primarily played corner, but it has been done. So now, here comes your question, Maul. Are the Raiders taking Shador?
No. I mean, again, I think he would be gone by this point, but again, I think with Geno coming in, again, there's too many holes for most of these teams at the top here to like. I'm not saying it's smart. It's just history has proven that teams are always trying to pick somebody who's going to help them win now, even though it doesn't make the most sense or it is improbable. And with Geno coming in, who's like the clear QB1, that would be great for Shador. But if you're staring at Ashton Genty in the face and one of your biggest needs is running back, there's no chance they're passing on that dude. And that's who I'm going to take at 6 is Genty.
I love the pick.
That's the easiest pick in my mind.
When Josh Jacobs left, their run game
sucked.
Completely fell off a cliff.
100%.
So I think he fits this. I mean, from a Pete Carroll system, you look at Marshawn Lynch, like he fits the bill of what you're wanting. And if Pete Carroll can make Russell Wilson look good, he made Geno look good for a few seasons. It's the reason he went and got him. So, makes sense to me. Pops, what you got with the Jets?
Yeah, I think, going in, this is Aaron Glenn's first season, really trying to see, if they can survive outside of the Lions system. Him being a defensive guy, I'm sticking with the defense. I think this is where we're going to see Jalen Walker end up at.
Oh, nice.
I think both of the Georgia guys with Jalen Walker and Mikael Williams are dogs, for the pun included. Either one of those guys is the guys that I would take. I had Mason Graham as my number 1 on the line. Then I had outside of Abdul Carter. After Abdul's the clear cut number 1, but then it was Graham, Walker, and Williams. And then for me, I had Donovan. I'm going to butcher his last name.
Do it.
Xavier Curry
out
of Boston College.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to clip that. But I don't like Pierce, So the Georgia guys are where I'm at with that. I do appreciate you making that pick. I told Maul last week that if it fell this way, this is what I was going to do. I was like the Panthers. Everyone's talking about their defense, but the one thing that no one can argue is Bryce Young needs help.
Yeah.
And if you looked at it from last year, who was the offensive rookie of the year that was not at quarterback? He didn't win. Jaden Daniels won.
Mm-hmm.
But who would it have been?
Offensive rookie of the year.
It wouldn't have been
Caught the ball.
Leggett?
No. It's Brock Bowers.
Oh, see, you switched teams. You're talking about the Panthers. You got me.
I was talking about that. I was just saying, like, from that standpoint, like a tight end that like is a baller, it can't be understated. Like when you look at Kittle, you look at Kelsey, you look at even the Eagles with Goddard. Like having a tight end that can make plays changes the whole offense. If he's here, Tyler Warren's the pick. Like, give me the pins. The dude is an absolute beast. That would help the Panthers and Bryce Young immensely. That's who I'm taking with Carolina.
I don't hate that pick. That's tough to argue. I mean, you're right. The defense is something else, but
dead last.
I mean, from a is one player on your defense going to really turn around dead last defense? Like it really isn't. You know what I mean? You got to make other moves there, but to pass up on a weapon or like the potential of the next Brock Bowers, that's tough to do. Especially when you still have someone so young like Bryce Young. It's like, dude, let's just get this guy, let them start building some rapport, and like in 5 years, over the next 5 years, we can work on the defense while these guys are putting up crazy numbers. That's not a bad pick.
And that's the one thing I would caveat. I could see the Bears trying to move in, potentially try to go get Warren. I know he's been speculated a lot with the Bears, and thing is, Komet's in a contract year, so he's got to either put numbers up or he's out of town, so they may be already looking for a replacement. It's on the speculation of their draft needs and everything else like that. So this is where I could see the Bears possibly moving up. Ben Johnson sees one of these types of weapons, to try to add those pieces to the puzzle.
I think the only thing I disagree with you there, I think if the Bears move up, it's to get Genty.
Yeah.
I don't, Ben Johnson had the 2 running back monster in Detroit, and I think he tries to replicate that with Swift and Genty. If he has the possibility of getting someone, I think it's Genty.
100%.
That's just me. All right, Maul, you're up with the Saints.
Yeah, so this is kind of throwing me for a loop here because I didn't think I was going to have to go this far. So I had someone else penciled in for the Saints here to help them out on defense. But now sitting here staring at Shador in the face, I don't think they would pass on Shador here. I mean, you hate to see it because they've got Spencer Rattler, but like
he proved last year he couldn't do it.
Exactly, right? It's just like Carr's not your guy, right? Like Carr is now just the guy who's going to train your young guy. Rattler has shown talent, but you're just like, he ain't it. I don't think they pass on Shador here. That's if Shador falls to them, I think they're gonna take him. I don't think. Okay, personally, I like Jackson Dart better than Shador. I'll just put that on record. I do, but that's not saying anything real high on Jackson Dart. It's just I don't have hardly any faith in Shador. But you're not going to move up to go get Jackson Dart. You know what I mean? Jackson Dart, you could probably get day 2 if he falls far enough.
Jackson Dart's another Spencer Rattler. Like he's shown signs of being very good, but it's one of just what you said. There is no reason to hop up and go get this guy. He'll be available day 2, day 3. Like, you just wait. You sent out that, or was it you or Pops that sent out that thing of, hey, don't overreach?
Yeah, it was Pops.
For a day 2 or day 3
no.
QB?
Yeah. It was like the, no, that was Pops that said, history's proven that reaching for that dude is a franchise disaster.
And this was the 2011 draft where Cam Newton went 1, then Von Miller, Marcel Darius, AJ Green, Patrick Peterson, Julio Jones, Alden Smith, and then the Titans followed up with Jake Locker, and it was immediately followed by probably a Hall of Fame offensive tackle and Tyrone Smith by the Cowboys. Then the Jags select Blaine Gabbert, and then it was immediately followed up with a Hall of Fame player by the Texans of J.J.
Yeah,
Watt.
I mean, think about that. We're talking about like Super Bowl MVPs and Hall of Famers and like MVPs on the season just riddled throughout that draft class. And then the other two quarterbacks outside of Cam Newton are guys that like are non-existent.
I scrolled through that whole draft, and I know that he wasn't even looked at in the first round because he went in the 6th, but Jason Kelsey ended up going in the 6th round. You know,
Wow,
another Hall of Famer.
wow. Yeah, so I'll just put it. I'll go out with the Shador there for the Saints at 9, just because if he falls that far again, people are gonna start licking their lips and thinking like they're getting a steal because of him falling. But that's what's gonna happen.
And this,
All right,
this is
Pops.
where and this is where I'm very curious about. I'm not worried about my Bears pick, but I'm curious of if we're going to see like last year when everybody thought that, Falcons were going to take the edge. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. I can see him, but I can't make his name.
Jared
out.
Verse.
Yeah, went to the Rams.
And they went up and got Penix, and then it's like the Broncos traded up. Holy crap, they're getting Knicks. And like we just saw these guys coming off the board because everybody was trying to get their franchise guy. And I mean, it played out for, the Broncos and a little bit of the Falcons. Still up in the air about that. But I'm just curious if we're going to see something like that again with, again, less talents, with
Yeah.
Is Gabriel in the draft?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Dylan Gabriel, Jackson Dart, like these lower tiered guys, like are we going to freak out and just start picking them because these teams do this?
And I'll emphasize again, it's also because there's also lack of other talent in other places. Like, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of good dudes out there, but like not in necessarily positions that you're gonna like risk number 1 picks on for. You know what I mean? Like you're starting to just kind of go like, well, shoot. I like I just said, like it's like I don't need to get Jackson Dart or I don't need to get some O lineman or whatever because I can get these dudes later because the draft is kind of just they're one half dozen or the other in this draft because there isn't a lot of star power. So you're just like, well, Shador's the shiniest penny on the wall. You might as well pick it. Especially when it comes to quarterback. You know what I mean? Like quarterback, that always happens.
Yeah. With the next pick, if Genty's already off the board and the Bears don't trade up to get him, they're going to get Mykel Williams. They needed somebody with Sweat. Sweat did all he could last year, and it showed that there was nobody on the other side to help supplement what he was doing. And my guy needs some help, and we haven't brought anybody in the offseason.
I love the pick. I mean, it's typical Bears in terms of defense. The only thing it comes to the 49ers, and it's funny because I think it speaks to what Maul's talking about with the lack of talent. Like we still haven't had a wide receiver come off the board. And for me, like I look at the Niners, like they need a lot of help. I think that they would love to take an offensive tackle, but the problem is the Niners have put themselves in this situation, and it's because they paid Brandon Ayuk. Like when they gave him that money, it screwed the team because you have Caffrey, you have Trent Williams, you have C-Mac. You knew you were going to have to pay Purdy. And so they trade away Debo because they couldn't afford him. They have Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, and Kittle still, but like they don't have a guy. My question is, and I keep like going back and forth on the wide receiver position. I know everyone has McMillan as the number 1 guy. I just go based upon what I saw last year. And for my pick, it's Matthew Golden. Like, I love the wide receiver out of Texas. Like, in the biggest of games, that dude balled. Like, against great competition, my man lit it up. And I think that him doing that rose him in the draft position. And McMillan never really had that. He came into the season as like a top 5 pick. And I think everyone's sort of like, man, I don't know about this guy. For the Niners, that's who I'm going to take is Matthew Golden.
That's a great pick. Pops, for you with the Bears, what if Membu was still on the board? Would you have switched your pick to O-line there? Just because, I mean, personally, off of what we saw, I know that the defense, there needed help. Your logic was sound, but like their defense was most of the time their strong point all season, and they needed the most help with protecting Caleb Williams. You know what I mean? So
True. We brought in Tooney. We brought in the center. We got an All-Pro. We've got a Pro Bowl center now. Like, I don't know. And the reason why I say that, and I mean this honestly, like I just don't know, because the last regime they drafted Tevin Jenkins. He's now going to be gone. And it's like he was supposed to be that guy, like that caliber of a O lineman. I think he came out of Oklahoma State, and he just never worked out for the Bears. He was always hurt. They tried him out at tackle, moved him down to guard. Like he was never he was on the left side, then moved to the right side, vice versa. Like it just never played out the way it wanted to. So I don't think you waste this big of a pick on a guy like that. And I mean, I know there's the Anderson out of LSU. Kelvin Banks' name's been brought up. The thing I don't like about Kelvin Banks is he just had his knee replaced. So I don't know what we're going to get, if that's going to hurt him in the first round or not, in all honesty.
that's a fair point. I just thought I'd bring it up because when we were watching all the Bears games last year, all we could talk about was just like
Caleb's running
some help. Yeah. Like,
and somehow he still had numbers very similar to Jaden's. Don't ask me.
So I'm with you. Go ahead.
I was going to say, go ahead and tell me what offensive lineman the Cowboys are going to take.
So, I mean, it's funny because I'm looking, their biggest needs. Offensive lineman's not even on there. I do think they need a receiver. I think they brought in Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders because they do need a running back, which outside of those, I thought they would have maybe traded up to try to go get Genty, kind of the same thing like he was talking about with the Bears. But if they don't and they're still sitting here, I don't think Hampton out of North Carolina would be worth it for them to reach here. They could go offensive lineman, but if it falls the way it did, I think they'd just go get McMillan out of Arizona because they do need a wide receiver to help out CeeDee Lamb. And, I don't know. Jerry's going to do Jerry things. But if I'm the Cowboys here, I'm just skipping the pick so that they don't get any better. They just stay worse. So
they traded away.
They traded away to the Chiefs.
Now, for a 6th rounder.
That's the Bills' jobs.
Yeah.
Oh,
Pops, it brings it back to you with the Dolphins.
Yeah, for me here, I see this is going to be, the Miami's defense has been shuddering for years. I think this is where we see the second DB go off the board. I got Jahdae Barron from Texas going here. He was a first-team All-American for Texas, and, he's going to be a pretty high pick in my opinion.
It's funny because he's now fallen to me. I think that I could see the Dolphins go offensive line. I will say also back to Maul's Cowboys pick. I think you're spot on with this because Jerry's already done this once with Amari Cooper being there. And when CeeDee Lamb fell to him, he was like, thank you, I'll take him. And everyone was like, man, we really didn't need wide receiver. And it don't get me wrong, it made their offense super, super lethal. And the second they got rid of Cooper, it immediately took a step back. But I think it's a good pick.
It's also like what I was talking about with the Giants, where they make a mistake with one position and then do like this revenge pick where, they're like, oh, we lost Saquon, let's get Genty. Where it's like the Cowboys are going to be like, yeah, we thought we had this, whatever Jerry's master plan with bringing in, what was his name? The dude with like one catch on the whole season. You know what I'm talking about?
Exactly. Yeah, I know.
I said his name the other day. I can't think of his name right off the top of my head. But you know what I mean? It's like, well, that didn't work out. So instead he's going, okay, well, I'll draft this guy instead. You know what I mean? Like he's just trying to cover up his tracks.
You're looking it up right now.
Yeah, I am. I'm trying to.
Well, while you do that, I I had to misspeak. It was Will Campbell out of LSU.
Paris
Now,
Campbell.
oh, look at that. Paris Campbell is the wide receiver. Must be related.
Sorry. Go ahead. Or are you waiting on me for the Colts pick?
I was gonna say, who's got the pick? Is it you with the Colts?
I got the Colts. It's funny because when I didn't think he would be here by now, and my plan was to honestly go tight end. That's what a lot of people have. I was going to take Loveland out of Michigan. But with him sitting here, I think it's the best situation for the Colts. They need an offensive tackle. I'm taking Will Campbell out of LSU. I know the thing that kills me about this is like one of those ones where I think that too many times the NFL GMs, they like read into this too much. They're like, well, his arms tested short. And it's like, did you watch him? Like, the dude didn't give up but like one sack his whole college career. Like, apparently against all this good competition, he did more than amazing. Like, what did you want? And they're like, yeah, but it's the NFL. And I'm just like, this is why like Anthony Richardson's happened that go way too high because his testables were good. And this is why I'm like, Aaron Donald, for example, everyone was like, he's too short. And it's like, and what'd he do? My man just dominated the league for a decade straight. Like, I just sit back, and I'm not saying he's going to be a future Hall of Famer, but at the same time, I also sit back and I go, I think he immediately makes the Colts better. Like, they need an offensive lineman. I'll take, in arguably, he's tied with the tackle out of Missouri and the other guy that I have?
Kelvin Banks.
Yeah, Banks. Like, those three guys are looked at as the predominant top three tackles. I'll take Will Campbell. And it's mainly because of Banks. I felt the same way as Pops. Like, my man's just been injury prone. I think he's a great offensive tackle. He played well for Texas, but too many times the turf, he was laying on it. All right, Maul. Tell him what quarterback the Falcons are going to reach for.
Jackson Dart. Now I think, I mean, truly at this point, I mean, I think the Falcons are set on offense. I mean, you think they got a brand new quarterback, they got young wide receivers, they got a real young running back, they've still got a pretty young tight end. Their O-line held up decently last year. Like, I think they're pretty set on offense, and their defense is really, really what's hurting them. I mean, case in point, if you can't, I mean, remember we were talking about running away with the NFC South last year with them. I mean, and I know the Bucs are playing a lot better than everybody expected, but again, like, for them to just be so poor, and it was all defensive problems. Like, their offense really did produce well. I mean, Kirk didn't play well, and that's why they sat him down. But even when Penix came in, we all thought that was going to be an absolute bust. Like, he still kind of held them at the relative same level that Kirk was holding them at. It's just their defense couldn't do anything. So they really need help on defense. Interior line, maybe not linebacker, but edge rushers. Like, they need defense. And I'm going to take basically the best guy on the board at this point is James Pierce out of Tennessee for the Falcons.
Wow.
They would love for some other offensive linemen to be sprinkled in here throughout. That way they could go get one of the Georgia edge rushers. But since they're both gone, I think they've just got to take whoever's next best at that point.
Do you think Pierce is going to do well? There's been a lot of negativity about him.
Yeah, I remember you saying something about that. I haven't been following that closely to know kind of what everybody's been saying. But again, just from like the numbers that he was putting up and on tape, I mean, he's fast and is big and strong. So I mean, I don't know. It's the NFL, like they're hiring murderers and all that kind of stuff. So who knows, man?
That's true. For the Arizona Cardinals with the number 16, honestly, I don't know where this franchise is going to go. I mean, we've seen, last year they were almost 500 under their new coach. I think personally, their defense needs a lot of work. but I think this could be a reach that they're going to make, and I think they're going to try to get Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. Line him up with MHJ.
I don't hate the pick. I told Maul, I think he was like, we were talking about him earlier, and I said his comparison is JSN. Like, they are the same guy. I don't think he's going to be that number 1 or number 2 guy, but I think he's a great, like, third wide receiver that just terrorizes the defense. He did it really well in Seattle. Be interested to see how he plays now that Metcalf's gone to Pittsburgh.
Which is funny because if Egbuka was still there when I was coming around with my Seahawks pick, I was going to pair the two together and get Egbuka.
Yeah.
Well, you would have, because with the Bengals, I sit back and it's like, I got tickled that the like chief financial officer of the Bengals, like Hendrickson, is like sitting at his home on couch on April Fool's Day. And there's these comments made about like, well, I just think he needs to be more happy with what he's getting, with the number that we're offering. And if he can't be happy, then maybe we're going to have to look a different way. To which I want it to be like, the only reason you're saying that is because you made 2 wide receivers the happiest in the league, and you don't want to pay a defense. And what they're going to do is they're going to let him walk or just hold out, and they're going to go draft someone. I sit back and I look at what this is more about, not who I think should go, but where I really think this is what's going to happen. I think it's going to be Mike Green out of Marshall. I think he had like really, really good testables in the combine, the edge, and they need an in. And he's sitting there. I think that's who the Bengals go with.
If they don't draft defense, I don't care what position it is. But if they don't draft a defensive player, Cincinnati's going to be on fire.
Well, it's flooded, so they're going to have a hard time starting the fire.
It's going to be flooded with gasoline.
Yeah.
Because goodness gracious.
That leaves you with the Seahawks.
Yeah, so again, I was already kind of hoping that Egbuka would be there. That kind of snuck out from underneath me, but they need offensive line. They did bring in Cooper Kupp. I don't know how that plays out, but they need an offensive line. So I'm going to take Banks out of Texas.
Banks is gone. He fits Seattle system, and you think about the old, what was it? What was the big guy's name? Played up there for years. I only know because he ended up buying this house in Alabama that was right down the street from my wife.
He was a offensive lineman,
offensive tackle. Walter Jones. I mean, he was legendary for them. He looks the same as Banks. Both of those guys are pretty similar in how they play. So I like it.
I mean, Darnold needs help. You know what I mean? Like he's proven throughout his entire career, like he has the talent if he's protected. But if he's not protected, things can get squirrely real quick. So they gotta protect him.
Pops, are you going offense or defense? You going to surround Baker with some help, or you're going to get some more guys on that defense?
I think we're going to get some more guys on that defense. I mean, we saw time in and time out, or time and time again. That's the analogy I was looking for. Just the defense will let teams right back into it. I mean, Baker would put up 50 points, and they would let the offense put up 60. So I think that they struggled time and time again this past season. I think here they're going to try to get one of their corners. Give me Will Johnson out of Michigan.
Great pick.
Yeah, I love the pick. They need another corner to help. I think that if Will Johnson had fallen to the Broncos, that's exactly who I was going to take to pair him with Surtain.
Yeah.
With that not happening, especially after Ibuka comes off the board and McMillan and Golden, I sit back and if he falls to them, I think they definitely take him just because of the hype around him. And the Broncos, like I wrote on the sheet of paper, they need a wide receiver. Like they got rid of Judy. They have Sutton, but he's getting older. I think that if he's there, Luther Burden III comes out of Missouri. He's a big physical wide receiver. That's what Sean Payton has always drafted. Like you look back at Colston, you look back at who's the guy that kept breaking his toe every year after having a great season? Michael Thomas. Like it fits their bill. So I like Luther out of Missouri going to the Broncos.
It's not a bad pick.
Please don't tell me, or else I'll have to boot you out, that you take Jalen Milroe at quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No. I take Jalen Miller at running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's actually not a bad pick. I might pencil that one in. So this one's tough because, I mean, they need a QB bad.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, is Rodgers going to end up there? You know, honestly, and now that I'm kind of talking myself into this, I think even if Rodgers does end up there, you almost prefer this. They're set. I mean, the Pittsburgh nails all their drafts, right? So they're going to come up with something that we aren't thinking about, but like their defense is pretty dang solid. Obviously, they could get better, but their defense is pretty dang solid. They need a running back. That's probably the best pick by thinking out, like, you know, if you don't know anything about Rodgers, they go get Amarian Hampton. I like Trevion Henderson better, but he is very, very similar to like a Jalen Warren type style. So I don't think that fits right. But now I'm thinking about quarterback, and we kind of talked about it. If you could get Jackson Dart here, he doesn't have to start, and you know, all right, our quarterback room is still kind of weak. He could, because Mason Rudolph is nothing. But if you really truly bring in Rodgers, now it's like, dude, Jackson Dart has a Hall of Famer to help build him. And I don't hate it.
So who you taking?
Talk myself out of it. I still just think Jackson Dart isn't a first round guy. But the way drafts go, people are taking quarterbacks early. I think Amarian Hampton is a second round guy, just like Dart. If you really put me in this situation, I'm going to take Hampton.
Amarian Hampton.
Because if you bring in Rodgers, then you kind of, I don't want to say it's a waste of a pick, but like you need the running back. And if you can have Rodgers with a decent running back with the receivers, like I mean, they could be a threat next year for sure.
Pops?
Well,
you're at the Chargers.
Yeah, you took my pick. So I don't think Harbaugh is going to be able to subside his pettiness. I don't think he would draft somebody from Ohio State like Henderson, to help out that running back room. I know they just brought in Najee, so I think they'll probably lean away from from the running back position. Obviously, they need wide receivers because Ladd is all by himself right now, and we saw that last year. Palmer Johnson can't catch. They just brought back Mike Williams. I don't know really what that's going to do for it because he did absolutely nothing for the Jets.
My man is washed.
Yeah,
he's so old.
Yeah, I agree. Here, I think that they're going to add a tight end, and I'll take Gunnar Helm from Texas.
Ooh.
Of course, the only thing I will trade this with, there's no way, there's 0% chance he doesn't take Loveland out of Michigan.
That's what I was going to say.
I love the tight end pick for the Chargers. It would help the team immediately. I have to believe in my mind that he would stick with the Michigan roots.
I was going to say, I'm not writing this down. Didn't you already take Loveland?
Mm-mm.
Oh, dang it. Well, yep.
Hey, Gunnar Helm, that's a great pick though. Gunnar Helms,
Oh, for sure.
That's solid.
Big guy, yeah, played well. Packers got the hat on. I go back to this like for me, like the Packers are sort of like the Steelers, except the Steelers have needed a quarterback since Big Ben's left, but it's like they're too late in the draft to like go get one. So because there's no one that you really trust, and that's the same position that Maul was in, that he's like debating. It's like I don't think that Jackson Dart is a first round pick. I don't want to waste this pick on him when there's too many other guys. And then you look at the Packers, it's like they're continually like fighting for the playoffs, and every single year you're like, hey, what was the one thing you never got Rodgers? It was like, hey, you need a wide receiver. And they're like, yeah, but we don't love anybody. And that's what, like, I'm looking at the board right now. There's no one that I'm like, ooh, that's who if I'm the Packers, that's who I'm taking. Everyone knows Jair Alexander's leaving. He's done. They're going to take a corner. Like, that is what the Packers are going to do. That makes the most sense. They're going to take Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky. Which brings it around to Maul for the Vikings.
Yeah, I don't really have anything good here. They kind of need a corner. But they could also use some offensive line. The problem with corner at this stage in the game is that most of them are already gone. Say like the good ones, the ones that are worth first round picks on. They're good on. They got Aaron Jones in the running back. They got Addison and JJ obviously outside. I think with a young quarterback, they're going to bring in an offensive lineman to help protect him because Darnold definitely needed some extra protection there. So I'm gonna take Josh Simmons out of Ohio State.
Dang.
And that's who
Pops wanted
was trying to replace Tunsil on the offensive line of the
dude,
Texans.
And that's exactly the angle that I'm playing. We know that they need help with the wide receiver. They brought in Kirk. It's just one of those things. I think he will be a better fit. He's a little younger, obviously, than Stephon. We saw what happened with Stephon towards the end, and just with the injuries and everything, he just wasn't able to produce. But again, it didn't cost the Texans anything, and then everybody ended up getting hurt, so their season was done anyways. But I think they're going to go for a lineman here, in my opinion, as well, and I'll just take Josh Connerly out of Oregon.
Their defense definitely had regression, and they need help on that defensive side of the football. So it makes sense, and especially at the position, unless the Texans are just in love with a wide receiver, which this draft class isn't loaded, I don't see them making that move either. So with the Rams, I literally had two things circled, and I'll get your guys' opinion, and I'll actually have y'all help me make this pick. I had tight end or linebacker, and my logic was linebacker, the number one guy in the class, is still there with Jahad Campbell out of Alabama. But, and this is like the difficult part, the defense was really good last year. They could use a linebacker. At the same time, that you are on the end cycle with Stafford. So do you go get someone that helps Stafford immediately, or do you try to help the defense? Because I'm like torn on that of where do they go? Do they go offense to like make another run with Stafford, or do you load up again on defense?
Did something happen to Higbee? Is he still there? Because
I just think that
if he's still there, dude, they got great chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
It's an easy going linebacker there for me.
Same.
Jahad Campbell it is out of Bama. which brings up the Ravens with Maul. You gonna go tight end? I hear they got a guy that loves to drop it on the goal line.
It's Kadarius Toney as a tight end. So this one's kind of tricky. I say that for every pick. They obviously got a solid offense. Shoring up that offensive line is kind of one of their big needs. Their defense, though, is also pretty solid. It's not one of their needs. It's something, though, that I have kind of personally thought, if you could get a true dominant wide receiver for the Ravens and take some of the attention off of Zay Flowers, like, because Zay is really good. He's super talented. For whatever reason, though, he's just not great as being like that number one guy. Now, it kind of works in their system because they've got two other number one guys that are running the ball, with Lamar and Derrick Henry, that like Zay doesn't have to keep everybody's focus. But I thought if they could bring in a good wide receiver, that would just like really make their offense just crazy good. The hard part is most of the good wide receivers have already been taken, except Jaden Higgins, and he's a big body at 6'4", 214. Like, that's the opposite of what Zay Flowers is, and kind of gives you that, quicker, smaller, bigger guy, or quicker, smaller guy versus the bigger guy. And they probably will just take an offensive lineman because that's like one of their actual needs to like really solidify. But I mean, like, Derrick Henry and Lamar didn't have any problem running the ball last year. And I think this is what's going to do it for him. Because again, Mark Andrews has kind of proven that he's not, the most reliable there. So I'm going to take Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State.
Nice.
I love the pick, mainly because I think the Ravens are the team to beat out of the AFC. Like, I think that we saw it in the Super Bowl that the Chiefs have just gotten too old regardless of who they pick in this draft. Like, I don't see the Chiefs. They still have Mahomes. Like, the Chiefs are still going to be a playoff threat. But I think when you look at the Ravens, like, barring injury, like, that's the team. If they had Zay Flowers this year, I still think they end up playing the Chiefs instead of the Bills. With that, that's just me.
Oh, yeah, Mark Andrews would have caught a ball.
Yeah, they had them. Like, it was funny because Maul predicted it during the episode. He's like, I think that the Ravens are the only team that can beat the Chiefs given the opportunity, and we never got to see that opportunity. So I love the pick. It makes sense for the Ravens. Pops, where are you trying to shore up the Lions to see if they can get a second win and get back after a bad loss to the Commanders as the number one seed?
Yeah, I think for me, they brought in Zadarius Smith. Aiden Hutchinson's coming back. They just released Smith, so they don't really have an edge right now. I could see them working that angle, but also nobody's taken a safety yet. I think Nick Imawari is going to be taken off the board here if he's still there for safety. We know that their secondary has always been suspect at best, and this is going to help continue to build that because, we saw plenty of issues last year with Terrion Arnold, just getting exposed as a young kid. So I think they continue to build it.
You doing that made it I think it's a great pick. The only thing I think that the Lions could possibly they need another corner just because they keep getting hurt at that position. Like, that was their downfall last year. They couldn't cover on the back half, which, granted, they just had so many injuries, but you really can't have enough corners. I like the edge position, especially after Myles Garrett said, I want to play for a Super Bowl. And what I mean is I want to play it for a Super Bowl in Madden. Give me $100 million. So for me, you left the door open. The Commanders need an edge. And the question is who do they go get? I think he's on the board, and the difference of these two guys. So you have Azir Kuri, out of Boston College who doesn't have the size that everyone wants, but then you have Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M who has all the like the intangibles that you want, but in all his time in A&M had 3.5 sacks, so he just didn't have the stats to like back it up. I think they go Shamar Stewart and take him out of A&M. I think the Commanders need help on that defense, and that's where they're going to go.
Sorry, who'd you take, Stewart?
Yep.
Okay.
Who are the Bills trading with the Chiefs to give up?
Who'd you take, Pops?
On the last one,
Yeah.
Nick Emenwari, the safety from South
okay.
Carolina.
Yeah, okay. So funny. My logic, I feel like, applies to the Bills just like the Ravens did. Like the Bills would probably hope, or maybe they make the trade with the Ravens to go get Jaden Higgins because they do need a wide receiver as well. They for as such a good as a team as they are, they do need help. I think with Josh Allen, they were able to get away with who they had. And I think they'll probably make who knows. I'd say they probably make that same mistake and just they need defense, but they do need like a number one wide receiver. So I think Jaden Higgins would be a great pick for them to go get a big body. But because the Ravens took them ahead, I think they just stick to defense there. Again, this is kind of one of those like we haven't seen hardly any of them come off the board. All we took was Mason Graham in the middle, and at this point, Derek Harmon's still sitting there out of Oregon.
He did it again.
Big body in the
He
middle.
did it.
I was taking it with the Eagles.
So I'm taking Derek Harmon.
Gosh. I was sitting there and I was just like, yep, Chris Jones replacement. Here we go. And then Maul says it. I think the Chiefs are still going to go that direction. Their defensive line, Chris Jones is getting old. He's going to come back, but we saw that he was able to be neutralized by a really good offensive line in the Eagles. He was not the force that he was in years prior, where he was solely the disruptor of the game. I think they're still going to lean this way. And I mean, if Harmon's not there, I think they go with, Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss.
Dang.
You're welcome.
That was my pick. That was my follow-up. I hate you. The only thing I could see opposite of it would make sense. This is always like what happens at the back end of the draft is that you have the Chiefs, the Eagles, you have teams that they don't need a ton of help. Like they just need very specific players. And the only thing that I can see is exactly what you guys talk is like once Shador and Ward are off the board, don't get me wrong, there are teams there that are sitting back and they're like, I don't know if I can wait till the second round. Like, I don't know what's going to happen at the end of the first. I don't know if I can wait for that pick to come all the way back around, especially if like the Browns get Abdul. Like if Ward's off the board and they take Carter, then it's like, in the second round, they're taking Jackson Dart. Like they're probably going to go quarterback with the second pick in the second round. Like all that
probably
it does,
be one of the best drafts the Browns have ever put together. Just those two picks.
It's like that Dumber and Dumber. You went off and totally redeemed yourself, man. After all this time. I look at the Eagles and it's like, well, what do they need? Like I was wanting defensive line and I wanted safety because of all the different things that they lost they lost CJ Gardner, they lost Milton Williams, and Josh Sweat. Like they had really good seasons out of their two corners. I don't see them going and getting a corner. They need defensive line, but then you guys took both of the defensive linemen that would have helped. Like that's where I'm at with those two guys, especially with Harmon and Nolan. Do I think that they go Kenneth Grant here? No. Like I think that the thing that I keep like going back to in my mind, I know this is going to be a reach, but I can see it happening, and thus I'm going to call it. I think if he's here, I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles take Isaiah Bond out of Texas and give a third wide receiver to that core with the Eagles. Like the Eagles are primed. That like there's no one from Bama or Georgia on defense left. So, and that's who the Eagles notoriously take.
They're taking Malachi Starks, the safety.
Oh, you,
That's true.
Malachi, that's the pick right there.
never mind.
That's
I'll
it.
change that. Thank you.
I was gonna say that before, just as like a guess, but like that's the pick. That's the safety out of Georgia is Malachi Starks. Like they love Georgia players. They're taking Malachi Starks.
Thank you.
You're
Malachi
welcome.
Starks it
You're
in.
welcome.
Yeah, that saved me from looking dumb. It's one of those. The only other guy that I think they could take, if it's not defense, is somewhere in the first. I really do think that Tyler Booker, the guard out of Bama, comes off the board. Like, I don't know why it is that interior offensive linemen are never looked as first round picks, but it's like the Bears would have paid for one last year. Like, I think 10's a little too high to take him, but it's like the Bears would love to have another interior offensive line guy. And especially when you get towards the bottom of this list, it's like the Chiefs last year offensive line in that Super Bowl looked awful. So it's like, and it's typically what happens. It's like, oh, they went out and got the number one guy at that position because he fell all the way to the back end of the draft for him. It just, you can't explain it, but it's why those teams keep being good, because the good players fall to them because other teams reach to grab a guy. Well, I've got it written all down. I copied it down that way we can see who ends up being the correct picks and not. But outside of that, you guys got anything else?
I mean, there's gonna be trades and all that kinds of stuff that's gonna mix it up. I thought it was interesting that I can't remember if this is like the first time or in how many years that like all of the teams own their first round picks or something like that. Am I is that something that I pulled out of thin air, or I thought I remember hearing that?
Yeah, it's the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
Because the Rams have traded away every first round pick the past decade. So here's the question I'll leave you guys with. And I think this is a good one. Over and under 2.5 quarterbacks taken in the first round. I know that we didn't have it, but where are you guys going?
How many? We took 2?
2.
I say over.
Yeah, over.
Yeah.
I'll just play the odds and go under.
It's almost.
So here's the question. Outside of Ward and Sanders, since both of you guys, and here I'll go the over just to have another third opinion. Who's the next guy taken? Is it Jackson Dart?
I think somebody. I don't want to say
someone reach for Milrow
or Howard. Maybe
you were gonna say Milrow.
Howard's combine was worse than Jake Fromm's.
That's true.
My man couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
That's a good point.
Like that sunk him.
There's a lot of people who are real high on the Tyler Show guy out of Louisville.
I have seen that.
I don't. That feels very like Mitch Trubisky type pick. But if history tells us anything, that almost guarantees that he's gonna go in the first round. You know what I mean?
So, is that who you think? That's who your bet is?
That's my bet. I think that quickly gets followed up by Jackson Dart. That's one of those, like what Pops was talking about. Like all of a sudden it's like, oh, run on the quarterbacks. We're doing it, and then all of a sudden there's, we're talking about 2.5 and there's going to be 6 of them, So like that's what I see.
Pops, who you think's coming off as the third guy?
I think I know what the combine said. I would say it would be Dart or Howard in my 2 cents. Like, I just don't think that Milrow has shown that he's good enough, especially after this last season. For me, it'd be Dart or Howard. Ewers couldn't step up in the biggest games. We saw that for 2 straight years, and Gabriel wasn't able to do much in Oregon in big games.
Since I'm going with the over, I'm just going to take the whole NFL Combine thing, and I'll say Milrow, just because it's like, oh, he's got the speed. He's got, Did you see his deep balls against the air at the pro day?
You're taking Mel Kiper's pick.
It's just, I don't know what it is that's like FOMO that teams get of like, well, we see like this testable, and it's like, yeah, but like it's the same as Anthony Richardson. Like we all watched him play at Florida, and we all said like, yeah, I know he tested really well, but my man struggled, and that's where I'm at with Shador. Like Shador throws a good ball, but against top 25 teams, he never showed up.
That's why I didn't, and that's why it's my biggest thing with Shador is like, I'm not saying he's not talented. Like he's talented in college, but he was from like what we typically see, very mediocre. And I know he was on Colorado, but like at the same time, you're just like, those guys rise up above the talent if they're that talented. And when you just become mediocre around the talent, like going up exponentially in your surrounding talent doesn't make you better. You know what I mean? Like it's the Anthony Richardson. Like he was average at Florida. What all of a sudden turned him into this first round draft pick going up against tougher dudes? It doesn't make any sense. And that's Shador Sanders 100%.
I can't argue with that. Yeah. So anything else before we tune out 2025 draft?
That's it. I hope we're right.
All right. If only we had Roger Goodell getting booed coming out tonight, then it would have been a perfect.
Who does Roger sign with?
Yeah,
that would throw the whole draft into. He's gonna wait till the draft to say it, knowing him.
What are you talking about?
Like who he's gonna sign with, just to get some attention on him.
Oh,
not Roger Goodell, Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
Sorry. I was like, what are you talking about? Goodell signing?
No. Aaron Rodgers. I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers. Where does he go? Because that throws off tons of different picks.
I think it's the Steelers. That it makes the most sense in terms of that. I like for the Browns, like my logic was to sign Abdul Carter, but then go sign Kirk Cousins, because that would be the most Browns thing to do is like pay out the mouth for Deshaun Watson and then pay another guy that has always been paid way too much in Cousins. Like that makes the most sense to me for the Browns. Rodgers, I think there's only 2 teams that Rodgers plays for. It's either the Steelers or the Vikings. That's it. Like, and the Vikings, I think, have been like, no, which is funny because I think that the Vikings, if they picked him up, would have sort of that like Brett Favre year, that like him throwing to those wide receivers would be lethal.
Yeah.
Like, and I sit back and I look at the Vikings pick, like that's where
the fantasy.
Yeah. They take an offensive lineman, like they even have their running back in Aaron Jones. Like he played with Rodgers. Like they have all these pieces that you sit back and look at and you go, yeah, I think that's where they go. But I think he ends up with the Steelers. What do you think Steelers?
Yeah,
as well?
I was going to say Steelers, which is also dangerous. Like
where's Cousins end up?
Wherever his agent can get him the most money.
I can't believe the Falcons kept him for the bonus. That just like that was like the most Falcons thing in the world. Was like, we know he's not going to play. Let's pay him more and see if a team will trade for him.
See, I mean, I get it. Sometimes though, there's like things behind the scene that you may not know or that we're not privy to. Like maybe he is mentoring Penix in a way that like they really enjoy. I don't know. I don't know. I can't speak to those kinds of things.
All right, Pop said run, so
no worries.
That signals the end of this episode.
All right.
Got anything else?
No, that's it.
All right, time to pull chalks. We'll see you guys here soon.
Peace.